This podcast is brought to you by LMU Munich.
Well, hello everybody and welcome back again. Now let's start with Alexander Pilz with PloneIntranet. Intranets must be simple and social. We will see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me properly? Yeah? Super. So intranets must be simply social. This is a talk about our attempt to actually finally tackle the intranet issues with Plone. It turns out that there have been probably millions of approaches to get intranet right in Plone. And the first time we sat together to do that in a combined effort, we actually were 6 companies in the rooms, and we found that we together had done 7 or 8 different workspace implementations. And this is something that's simply not sustainable. But times have changed. Everybody has by now an intranet probably, and what becomes more popular is social intranets, because people find that intranets on their own don't work. They are seen as data dumps. People don't like to go there, and social intranets are the next answer on that problem. So I have highlighted the 3 parts of my talk. First, intranets, because it's even hard to define what an intranet is. Simply, the simple part is essential, in my opinion. And then finally, the social part. What does that actually mean? It has become quite a buzzword over time. So the first part is intranet. What is an intranet? Many people have come up with definitions, and I love the most simple one. An intranet is an internal website that helps the company to get things done. As it is always with very simple definitions, they allow a lot of interpretation. There is a guy called James Robertson from Step 2 Designs, who's kind of a guru in that intranet world, and he points out 5 areas of interest, if you will, that an intranet usually does. One is content. It means it provides manuals, guidelines, the company, handbooks, stuff like that. Communication, where the company communicates to its employees. The interaction part, which is travel expense forms, all this workflow stuff that you can do that you probably did earlier on paper and now online. The collaboration part, where you can actually share data with your colleagues. And then there's this cultural aspect that many companies simply don't do, but it should. Well, the intranet is a typical place for that if you want to organize something for the people internally. In reality, it is often centrally steered. I even have seen a job description for an intranet content editor. And that immediately means that you cannot actually put anything into your intranet. There will be an official person again that will review that, make corrections, check whether it's within company policy and all that. So that intranet and any dynamics in that intranet are very often, suffocated quite quickly. And the next thing is they often use it as this data grave. They put all their content in there because it's called digital workplace. So we scan everything, put it there, and then we somehow assume that everybody is reading this just because it's in the internet, right? And the communication part, because another big issue with companies is, we have way too many emails. We just put half of it into the intranet, and then again, everybody knows, right? And also big problem, the communication is done without any emotion. Outwards, if we sell something, like look at Coca-Cola, they sell completely through emotion. Everything is feeling, situations, feel good. But the moment you look into the company, they send newsletters again. Huge piles of paper. And if they want to avoid emails, they sometimes make their huge newsletter and make a PDF and attach it to the email and send that one. If you think about how communication happens in teams, then with about up to 7 people, you have the classic coffee machine paradigm. So people just meet, buy coffee, and exchange the relevant information through thin air. Works perfectly. The moment you get 14 people, they don't fit into a single bureau, for example, or the coffee machine is not good enough for 14 people, so you get 2 coffee machines. Suddenly you need an organizational structure. In Scrum, it's called Scrum of Scrums. The Scrum Masters meet once a while and talk. You lose so much about direct communication and this feeling about, oh, there's something that might be interesting to you. And what is, if you have 140 stuff, then you don't even are placed in the same location anymore. You have perhaps different cities, different continents, different time zones, different languages, different cultures. Communications just goes exponentially down. And if you make inquiries, for example, before starting to introduce an intranet, about what people actually expect from a company or from the new intranet, then the typical thing that everybody gets out is more communication down the chain of command, understanding of strategic decisions. People complain that they don't know what's going on there, what they up there decide, and they feel that they are detached from company communications. Your employees usually want to do the right thing for the company, but they do not have the feeling that they actually know what that is. And that gets us to this point, do we actually employ humans or machines? And how intranets often are built, intranets of the first generation, points more to that they treat their employees as machines that are somehow supposed to, I said it in the beginning, read everything every day what is on the intranet. Next point of my task, the simple part. Why is that so hard with these intranets? Because they are not simple to use, and it's not simple to get that information. If you have a huge tree on your shared drive, and you know in the 3rd level there is this IT department folder, and you know you're looking for something for your printer, feel free to look another 3, 4, 5 levels down there and search for the manual. Who does that? How much time do you have every day to search on a shared drive? And as people introduce intranets, they actually replicate their shared drive just into a web-based solution. There is not much change in that information architecture. So getting to the information in a simple way becomes more and more important, and I think companies are about to realize that. Question. How many of you are developers? Hands up, please. I somehow thought so. Yeah, okay, cool, not everybody. How many are integrators? Yeah, it's nearly the rest. That was that one. Who thinks PloneIntranet should improve the situation for developers? Cool. Who thinks it should improve the situation for integrators? Good. And who of you thought about the end users? Yeah, that's not that many that I would have expected here after all that preparation. Who of you knows Plone? Good, otherwise you would probably not be here. What is Plone good at? Plone is great if you use it out of the box, do some small adjustments. That's how it got great, through the web, all that. I would love to keep that, just Plone, just slightly bigger scale. Plone is also good at, if you want a radically new UI, you can use Plone as a great backend. The challenge is that the UI then is the big project, actually. The downside is that you cannot really reuse stuff anymore so much because it's really customer specific. And what Plone is not so good at, please note the badge that this is not Plone's fault actually. If you want to change the UI from Plone a lot, that becomes hard because you actually have to change a lot of stuff. So you can use it most efficiently if you if you keep Plone as it is, roughly. And you can install an add-on and make everything work fine, but if you install 10 add-ons, you also have to make sure all these add-ons work together. And Plone is simply no UI framework or platform. The complexity is an issue here. And as you might already assume, that an intranet is quite a complex add-on or complex software. This is very similar, what I just said with the add-ons, to this traveling salesman problem that, as most of you are developers probably know, it just means if a salesman has to go to different places in a country and needs to find the most efficient way, the more points he has to visit, the more complex the problem gets. And it's incredibly hard to actually calculate the optimal way. What we do here, if you take Plone alone, works fine. If you take Plone and install more and more add-ons, the complexity grows into the uncontrollable. And the amount of plugins that we need for an intranet is actually uncontrollable. So what we actually want is we want to use Plone for all the backend, but we want to control the UI and the add-ons as good as possible. This is very much like this Windows and Apple situation. Windows creates a basically good operating system, but if you have to support an indefinite amount of platforms and drivers, you're bound to fail, and Apple probably only works because they only have a very small amount of platform to sit on, which they can control. So are people in the need of an intranet? Definitely. Do people know that they are? Probably not. Do people want to work with an intranet? Hell no. Usually you have to work because the company has introduced that intranet and then they say you need to know what's in there. So what we have to do to make this a success is to give them a good experience. And how do we give that good experience? The old approach was many add-ons. Is it a fancy design? Is it a high configurability? And what we found is that a good experience is simple, reduced, effective, quick, intuitive. And the reason is that people do not go to the intranet because they want to work with the intranet. They go to the intranet because it's one little step in a huge task that they have to accomplish. And the intranet is just one step. And they need to go there, fetch some information, and leave it again to continue their task. I guess you have already seen something like that before. You wanted to go there, to go into a room, and you wanted to fulfill a task, and then you see the light is broken. Now you have to go fetch a light bulb. You actually forget what you wanted to do because you're now fixing the light bulb. And we did intranets in the past like this. We just stacked the add-ons on top, and then at the end, we tried to make a design that kind of makes it look nice, but based on the requirements of all these add-ons. And what we want to do in PloneIntranet now is we actually have this beautiful design of this spaceship, and here the function has to follow the form. So we have to position the add-ons where they actually make sense, but the design is what governs how to do it. If you think about positioning PloneIntranet in comparison to Plone and other software, we have tried to do that by a nice diagram with two axes. One vector is the target group. Is it more geared towards developers or end users? You know the answer for PloneIntranet by now. And the software vector, is it more a platform or a product? Where a platform is as flexible as possible, as little constraints as possible. You try to provide something that then can be taken by an integrator and be adapted to the customer's use case. While the product part is more, you get that one product and use it, and if it doesn't really fit your workflow, adapt your workflow. You cannot really change the product. From the developer side, if you make a software that is good for developers, then you allow them to develop something, think about make it nice later. And this is typically an approach that if you have many developers and few designers, what you often get is solid backend architecture, reusability, stability. Shit, I knew that was coming. If you target it to end users, then you make it nice first, and then you develop for it. And that is where you put the emphasis on the end user, and that's what we tried. And that gets us to a diagram like this, where PloneIntranet is clearly very high on the designer user experience part. I put Plone 5 down here. I know this is disputable. I think we could probably talk long about this. But this is a nice platform. You can build a lot of it. It's very nice for developer approach. And I put some of the out-of-the-box products for social intranets on the top right. So all of this is because of design first, puts the end user first. The design first process means that the product owner, designer, developer, they sit, do the requirements right, then it is designed, and the design of the designer is actually the requirement for the developer. This has some benefits, because all this interaction and how it is behaved, meant to work, that is already done in the front end in a very cheap prototype. And you can make changes easily, you do not have to do a lot of developments. And you get to the designers and developers to talk more together. It's much closer to the user. It has some challenges. Designers and developers have to talk together. This is something that we found to be one of the biggest problems in the past. Developers tend to say, oh, I can just solve that by putting a checkbox there. So, that was simply. And the final one, social. Now, what does that mean for intranets? I have put a sentence here in the subtitle which is very similar to the first one. An intranet that helps people to get stuff done. So suddenly the people aspect comes in. When you search for definitions what that social part means, then you inevitably come out with a definition that puts people and content in a relation. And it helps people to connect together. And if you have that in every position of your site, not just somewhere, also really in every functionality, then this would be a social intranet. And we need two things for that. One is real people need to actually create that content. As a developer, you probably have done migrations. If you have a customer, say migrate my local share into my intranet, then all the content is owned by the admin user, right? If you read that document and you want to ask another question, try contacting the admin user. It's a very fun process. And that content needs to be connected to real people so that you can actually go there and ask that person. So aspects of a social intranet are typically personalized dashboards, news feeds, video, document libraries, activity streams. Group representations, very important, because you actually need to know who is there, which groups are there in my company, what are they working on. So you are turning the personal part up. And the social intranet turns the static information library into a lively forum of information. And there is a nice anecdote here, where a big company has introduced a social intranet and they allowed a video sharing platform internally. And people could just record some short screencasts and they could vote them up and down. And over weeks, they had a video on how to use the one feature of their copy machine that tucks paper together. It's just 2 minutes. And they wondered and asked people, why is that so popular? Because the manual for the new multifunction copy machine has been mailed around. The manual was available in the IT section of the document library, so everybody should know, right? And a manual was placed just beside every multifunction copy machine. But who goes to the multifunction copy machine, stands there and reads a manual? Everybody who comes in thinks you are completely stupid. Yeah? Everybody knows that multifunction copy machines have multifunctions, but actually nobody knows more like how to put 10 copies and press the button. On the other hand, that feature was very helpful, and people loved that, to know that, because it saved time. And they organized themselves to move that up and share that information. But now I have talked enough, and I'm afraid of the last paper that she is going to raise. So I'm going to show you a quick 2-minute video on how that social intranet is actually looking like. So if you now wonder how to get that PloneIntranet to try it out, it has been done by the PloneIntranet Consortium. That are these companies that I mentioned in the beginning who sat together to find out how they can actually streamline their intranet work. Any company can join. We only require you to actually commit to the design first approach so that we can keep that consistent. We have 2 editions. We have a community edition and we have that Quave edition, which has been branded for mainly marketing reasons. We simply cannot sustain actually two versions or a long-strained versions of update. We want to keep people updated to a certain version so that we can actually reproduce issues. We're not that good stuffed. Still all is fully GPL, so you can see that as a kind of a closed beta version, Quave. Every 3 to 6 months we're going to push out a stable situation to the GitHub repository when we are confident to be able to support it actually. So PloneIntranet is called our community edition. You can get more information on www.quave.com. It has been updated just a few days ago as version 1.1 just came out. It has all the basic features for a social intranet and this design first approach. There is the Quave social intranet version, which is the version that we market, that we provide support for, and that we obviously target the enterprise market and focus on support and service. It has all the latest features. This is project driven, so every time customers come with projects, we implement and put that in, and once we have reached a stabilized state, we push that out to PloneIntranet again. We also offer consulting, obviously, and here is the roadmap. 1.1 has just come out now, actually yesterday. 1.2 will be after summer, and you can see the features that will be there on quave.com, and we plan the 1.3 for the spring next year. If you want to know more or get in touch, please take a look at the website. We are always happy to give you a free demo and a click-through and answer all your questions. We have a mailing list where we very rarely send some updates through. You can also just send us a note, and you can also have a free playground if you want, or just mail me. Thanks a lot. I would welcome some feedback.